I wish they don't.
I saw something about
maybe Marvin Harrison get undervalued because his coach in college doesn't use him.
I just saw something about he's considering going back, which I can't believe is
No,
true.
listen, I heard before the Michigan game, people that know him were saying everybody putting him in the draft, that's a fait accompli. That's a mistake.
You know what the funny
I don't know how accurate that is.
You know what the funny thing about that is? You guys believe that that's a possibility.
Well, no, I don't.
So here's what it comes down to. In this rivalry, and we're going to talk about Ohio State next. In this rivalry, years down the road, your bragging point is what was your record against Michigan?
Tyvis still talks about it.
Exactly.
Right, but he can't have a winning record anyway.
He can't, but he can win a game.
He can get one.
He can win a game.
Well, he won't if Ryan Day's still there.
And if you think that's not important, then you don't understand this rivalry.
I mean, we've seen Justin Herbert go back to school. Matt Leinart went back to school. It's not out of the realm of possibility,
especially
I guess, but I would
now
be
when he's making money right now.
Right.
Like in the old days, I get it. You're looking at 0 versus potentially $10 million.
Yeah.
That's easy. That's really easy. But if you can secure NIL deals that can, and he's already over 7 figures, but if you can push him into a $3 or a $4 million range, and college football is that important to him, and he wants to roll the dice, I still think he's going.
I think he's
going. But I find it interesting that
crazy to stay.
I think it's interesting that there is discussion that he might. At the end of the day, I think he's gone.
Why would you ever play for free when you could get paid?
He's not playing for free anymore.
Let's be clear.
He's not getting paid by the school. He's making.
No, but he's getting NIL money.
I know, but who
cares where the money comes from? It's money. It spends.
But he can make more in the NFL.
He could, but the difference now is you can still walk away with a 7-figure bank account. Where in the old days, it made perfect sense.
I mean, ask Justin Herbert. He went back to Oregon when he could have been a top 10 pick, top 5, top 10
Quarterbacks can have a 20-year career if they're
Let's be clear.
And it can be one knee injury away from not playing at all.
Wide receivers don't have that long career.
Maserati Marv was already rich.
That's true.
Yeah.
Like, what do who is
Maserati Marv?
Listen, it's different when it's your money as opposed to daddy's money. That's different.
It is.
Yeah, it's not his.
But
now in LeBron's case, his kids are rich.
But when you in the hood,
the empire's that big.
Yeah.
When you in the hood, and your dad is Marvin Harrison, and you don't pay like you.
Yeah, but Marvin's never lived in the hood.
I know he's never going.
He's never been to the hood.
If Corey Crawford is rich, Maserati Marv is rich.
Well, listen, he's rich. If Corey's watching this right now, he's saying, I ain't rich.
Listen, I was cut off years
Dad's
ago.
kept all those dollars for himself.
I'm still trying to find out where that buried money is at. It ain't under the mattress.
Bull texted us on Saturday after the game, and he essentially said Ryan Day has to be fired. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it.
I didn't hear you.
After Ohio State lost to Michigan.
I seen that.
For a third time, Bull texted us and said, point blank period, Ryan Day's got to
Bull
go.
said that.
That's it. He's got to go.
And I know this
Bull, camera's yours.
Yeah, I know this huge disagreement here, and I fully admit I'm not much of a college football fan. I'm not a big time, I'm not an authority in college football. I never pretend to be. I'm not a phony. However, I do know this, that all that matters is beating Michigan and winning playoff games. That's all that matters. I don't care. This is not the NFL where every game's up for debate as to who can win. His career record, to me, is meaningless. When you play the other teams in the Big Ten, that's like preseason football to me. That's like warming up for the season. The only games that matter are the college football playoffs and mostly Michigan. And since COVID, he's been awful. When he plays awful in the games that matter.
Oh, in the big games.
In the games that matter.
I don't even think he was awful last year against Georgia.
James Frank,
but that kicker makes that kick. They're national champions.
The ifs, ands, and buts, I don't care.
Well, it's not Ryan Day's fault the kicker missed the kick.
Jay, there's things along the way that maybe it shouldn't lead to that. Like maybe you go for it on 4th and inches around midfield. You're freaking Ohio State. You got the best skill position talent on the planet. And by the way, if the quarterback's not good enough, well, why don't you have a better one? And don't whine and cry to me about Quinn Ewers.
He picked the quarterback.
Exactly. He picked the freaking quarterback. The bottom line is he is 2-6 against top 5 teams. Ohio State is at a different level. They're supposed to be. I thought that it was national championship or bust. Nobody cares if you beat Purdue. Obviously, some people do because half the fan base thinks I'm an idiot for saying I should fire him, and maybe I am.
No.
But
you want him fired?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow, that shocks me.
Listen,
no.
I did not think you would go there.
None of these games matter except for Michigan.
I tweeted after the game a picture of Apple Maps from Ohio Stadium to College Station, Texas, and said, "Who's up for splitting the drive? It's a long drive. Let's get on the road. Let's get them up out of here."
Do you realize that their season is not over?
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
They're not going to the playoff. I think you could build a case for them.
Oh no,
to go to the playoff.
No, there's a path for the playoffs.
Yeah, but it's gonna take a lot.
So what's the path for them to make the playoffs?
If Louisville loses, or excuse me, if Florida State loses, and Washington loses, they're in.
Who's in the pack?
And by the way, crazier things have happened in college football.
That's not accurate.
Why not?
Because you still have a Texas team. You still
wait. When it comes to the one-loss teams, and there's a number of them.
Yes.
The committee has always done it this way. Whose loss is most impressive? So I'm
just telling you that there's no way that's going to happen.
Listen, I talked to somebody last night.
What about if Alabama beats Georgia?
Who covers the commission, who covers this for a living. And they said there's absolutely a path for Ohio State to go.
I saw their odds were like 54% still to make it. It was like better than half. But I still think he's got to go.
And so either way, I think this notion that you fire him.
I thought he should have been fired last year. I said that on the show.
A lot of fans did.
I thought he should have been fired last year.
Who are you replacing him with? Because there's only one guy I'm firing him for.
Why?
One.
Do we know Ryan Day's a good coach?
So the devil you don't know is better than what you have?
When you are Ohio
How
State.
can you say that?
When you are,
that all that matters is the games he's losing.
No, that's not all that matters.
Yes,
That's nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
If you could say if you're Alabama, the only thing that matters is beating Auburn and winning playoff games. So do you fire Nick Saban because
Nick
he lost this
Saban,
year?
how you compare that? Nick Saban's won multiple
national
championships.
Understandable, but in the moment, in the season,
yeah,
you can't say that none of those other games matter.
They don't.
If they lose to Notre Dame, over. If they lose at Penn State,
Penn State, James Franklin is the worst coach I've ever seen, and he wins a ton of games because it's not apples to apples.
You got to win them. You got to win them.
Okay, but they don't mean anything.
You could get any coach besides Nick Saban or probably Dabo. Anybody else you want. Well, run to Columbus for that job.
Ryan Day's a good coach?
No, listen, I'm not saying you can't get someone to come there. What I'm saying is, before I fire a coach, I have to have a replacement.
Okay.
And
there's
one guy that, so you're telling me that you would take anybody?
No, I'm saying if they have a list. I mean, I'd want Vrabel. I'm in that.
He's
pool.
my guy.
I would want Vrabel.
He is my guy.
Yeah.
If I can get Vrabel, it's a done deal.
And listen, I don't know Mike at all. I talked to him briefly at the owners' meetings last year.
This job's very important to him.
And I would think he's got to know what he has in Tennessee. Like, he's pretty much maxed out.
Yeah, they're not winning anything.
Like,
don't nobody care about Tennessee Titans football like that.
And in truth, Mike wants to win a Super Bowl as a coach. I get that.
Sure.
I understand that. But I know how Mike is wired. I know that scarlet and gray are through his veins. I covered him when he was a player. I got to know him much better since. That is his job. That's what he wants. Now, is he willing to leave Tennessee for that right now? I don't know.
I don't know either.
But if I'm the brass at Ohio State, I am at least talking to him.
You could get
to
any
see
coach,
if I can get him.
Absolutely. And
Whoever
if he says no,
short of that,
if he says no, you get whoever you want.
But you are going that under the idea that Ryan Day is a great coach. We don't know if he is.
I'll tell you
He's
this.
never done anything anywhere else.
He's Larry Coker and Ron Zook right now.
That's who he is.
That's who he is. Larry Coker won a national championship at Miami.
Guys,
and then when he had to do it on his own, what did he do?
To me, this may be controversial. I'd go get Urban Meyer again.
No, he ain't coming back.
I'd rather have Luke Fickell.
I'd call Herb.
Urban Meyer wouldn't come back.
I'd call Herb.
Urban's not coming back.
Listen,
Luke Fickell or Ryan Day.
Luke had his chance and it didn't
That
go
was an
well.
unfair situation.
I understand.
That was
I get it.
impossible
But
that
I'm
year.
just. All right, listen.
I want a coach in Urban Meyer who will be about to kill himself. Like, his health goes in the tank when he can play coaching. That's how much it matters.
Prop him back up and ring out 3 more years.
With an oxygen tank.
You're right. He is not. Listen, this dude. Listen, you could tell. When you saw, he's like, Harbaugh is out here running it right now. He's like, give me another shot, bro. But listen, that NFL stuff, people forgot
Urban's
about
making
that.
too much money with no stress.
Maurice Claret was all over Twitter all weekend.
But by the way, he
got
pulled,
to go.
He pulled that back.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he pulled that back.
But listen,
Somebody pressured him.
No, he pulled it back.
Dave Briggs is a columnist for Toledo Blade, does a really nice job. And if you remember those late 90s Cooper teams that were just absolute juggernauts?
Loaded.
I covered them.
Okay,
Loaded.
Listen to this. This blew my mind. John Cooper from 95 to 98, those massive teams, 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 3-4 against top 5 teams. Ryan Day in his last 50 games.
Wait, John Cooper was 1-9-1 against Michigan.
No. This is 95 to 98.
Okay, he had talent those other years too and lost.
Well, no, I'm just saying. John was 2-10-1. I covered the end of the Cooper years. He was 2-10-1 against Michigan. From 95 to 98, those powerful teams that should have won national championships. Yes. John went 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 3-4 against top 5 teams. Ryan Day, last 50 games, 43-7, 1-3 against Michigan, 2-5 against top 5 teams.
Fire him.
It's John Cooper all over again.
No,
if you look at those last 50 games.
I know what John Cooper looked like.
John actually built the program to a level. Ryan didn't build the program to that level.
No.
He got the keys to the Maserati.
He did.
And he keeps wrecking it.
And listen, that's whoever comes in is going to have that inherent recruiting advantage. However, this is where the game is different now. If you want to try to equate John Cooper and Ryan Day and maintaining greatness in the Buckeye tradition, with the state of college football where it is, if you make a change right now and the players have the ability that they do to move and leave and go, look out.
I was talking to somebody.
That has to be taken into consideration.
I was talking to somebody over the weekend about, in fact, about the Vrabel thing. About, I don't know if Mike would want to deal with the fact that anybody can go into the transfer portal just like that.
It's awful, guys.
And I thought this was a good point. He said that doesn't really happen at Ohio. Like at Ohio State, unless it's the quarterback and it's Quinn Ewers and you lose your opportunity and you got to go play somewhere else. Ohio State doesn't really lose a ton of guys.
Thing.
Right, but
Joe Burrow wasn't playing for a couple
right.
years.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
No, but that's the one position. Aside from that, I don't know what Ohio State has lost a ton of dues to the transfer portal because it's Ohio freaking State.
Well, so far they haven't. You're right,
Jay. When you look at the skill positions, you've probably had the 5 best receivers,
and they've wasted them.
Wait a minute. LSU's put out a lot of good receivers. But there's other good players in college football.
But I mean, when you got Garrett Wilson, Olave, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and you lost, what's the name? The kid that went to Alabama.
The receiver got hurt.
No, he came to Ohio State and transferred.
He transferred.
Right.
And then you still had Maserati Marv.
Yeah.
You had them 5, Jamison Williams. You got them 5, and you had C.J. Stroud. And
you can't beat Michigan with C.J. Stroud.
That's crazy.
You have to look at how things are unfolding, too. Last year, after he lost the Michigan game, there was cries last year, too.
I thought they should have fired him last year.
He got into the Georgia game. They were a 14-point dog. What were they? Against Georgia.
They balled that game.
They should have won.
They
balled
played,
that
but
game.
they didn't.
The kicker missed.
It was from 50. It was like it was a long kick.
Kickers make 50-yard field goals.
Not regularly
it's not like it was
in college.
63.
But
they don't regularly make 50-yarders in college.
So you say he should have been fired last year. How do you fire a coach that loses on a last-second missed field goal to the team that was talked about coming into the playoffs?
Because you lost to Michigan before that, and you lost to Michigan the year before that.
Okay,
and there's only like 2 or 3 games. Ohio State should win.
Games that
what
matter.
if they get in? Let's just play this scenario out.
I like that.
And they're the 4, and Michigan slips or goes to the 1.
And they win
somehow.
the whole thing?
All
right, then he can stay.
Okay,
won a national
but if
championship.
you fire him, you don't get to that point.
Okay, fine. Then fire him in January, whatever. But I'm just saying he can't come back. Remember, I said last year on the show, getting in was like a worst case scenario because if everyone wants to fire him now, and then if he loses to Georgia, they're really going to want to fire him. Yeah. I remember saying this on the show, and Maurice agreed with me. Like it was almost like a worst case scenario. Like once you get in, you got to win the whole thing, or it's even worse for you. And that's kind of how it turned out to be.
I think what the downfall that nobody's really talking about is they are regular on defense. That is not an Ohio State.
They let Michigan run the clock out.
You know
what
they
are regular.
Their defensive ends typically have been
dominant,
top tier. When you go back to the Bosa brothers, obviously
corners.
Chase was special.
Corners used to be.
I don't know what's Denzel Burke.
I don't know.
I think Denzel Burke's a pretty damn good player.
They paid a defensive coordinator $2 million to beat Michigan, and Michigan went right down their ass for the last 7 minutes of the game.
What's crazy to me is like Harbaugh withstood an awful start to his career at Michigan.
Because the program was a shambles.
Absolutely awful. You know it is because expectations at Michigan are the same in Ohio. You're supposed to do one thing.
Yeah, but
beat Ohio State,
independently,
win playoff games.
Jay, independently, people have higher standards for Ohio State than Michigan.
And when
I
he
disagree.
but when he came in, the program was down here. Ryan Day came in, the program's up here.
That's right.
Jim
Yeah, but-
built it up here, and credit to Michigan for sticking with him to get it to this point.
And that's the
But
point.
Ryan came in here, and now it's here.
Great point.
It
went
is?
from here to yes.
Wow,
he's
it's not-
lost to Michigan 3 years in a row. I just read you. He's 2-3 against top 5 teams.
So you're literally gonna remember when Earl Bruce got fired. I don't know if you do. You probably
I remember.
too young.
I was young, but I remember.
And the narrative was, wow, 8-3, but beats Michigan, but you're gonna fire him. And so John Cooper came in, and John Cooper won everything.
Yep.
Except Michigan.
Except Michigan
And by
and
the way, he had a
national
terrible
titles.
record in bowl games.
And national
Terrible.
titles.
I would
That's
love
why.
to know what Ryan Day's record is in games where the point spread is a touchdown or less. Can't be very good.
I'm not, this
Penn
is
State, Notre Dame, those both
Yeah, those
wins.
were all.
Well, no, I'm just talking about overall during his time. I mean, though most of those other wins, any coach could beat those teams.
See, when you say that, Bull, it does
Yeah.
kind of expose your lack of college football awareness. And
No, it
here's
doesn't.
why.
No, it doesn't.
In Texas, you know what they say in Texas? You know what they say at USC, UCLA, Florida, Florida State, all the blue bloods. Look at Florida this year. Florida can't get it right. Florida is a mess.
You're gonna
Florida
compare
was a
Florida
blue
to
blood
Ohio
a decade
State?
ago. Florida was a decade ago. Florida was
Ohio State's been a blue
blood.
blood forever.
Yes.
Florida State was a blue blood for how long?
So there's something
How
to
long was
say.
Florida?
But what I'm
blue
saying
blood?
is there's something to say it about keeping your team at that level.
But those Florida teams are also competing against each other for recruits.
they
just
always,
in state.
but Jason, they always did.
Yeah, and that's
They
why they-
always
and
did.
that's why they always
I'll
cycle.
give you two guys. Dabo Sweeney is on the hot seat.
Dabo's not on a hot seat.
Yeah. I completely.
Dabo's just a placeholder until Saban retires.
And Jimbo Fisher got
He's
fired.
gone. He's
and
gone.
Jimbo had top 1, 2, 3 classes, best facilities.
Jimbo should be gone.
And he won a national championship, right?
But Jimbo should be gone.
But if you could get rid of Jimbo Fisher with all that money they owed him, and he had #1 recruiting classes, it's coming.
Money's not an
Mike
object.
I
knows.
just don't know.
It's Ohio State.
I
Money's
just
not
don't
an
know what
object.
he has his hat to hold on. Ryan Day beating Purdue and Penn State.
And Penn State, congratulations. Penn
Okay,
State, Notre
good for
Dame.
him.
Notre
There you
Dame
go.
on the road, Penn State on the road, close games, both of them at the time, top 10 teams.
Yep.
I think Penn State was 5.
Either of those teams going to the playoffs? No.
No, but Bull, what you're saying is it doesn't matter if you hold serve because you're supposed to hold serve. What I'm saying is they say that in Texas. They say that in Alabama, which didn't hold serve this year. They say that for years they said that at Florida.
Those are bad comparisons, Jay.
Why? They're all college
The Alabama
blue bloods.
no, Alabama.
They are.
Alabama is
Texas isn't?
not the same level as Ohio State. Texas has
Wait a
been
minute.
good forever.
Texas.
I think they are.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
Jay's.
When's the last time Texas was good?
Bull,
When's the
06?
last time Texas was
Bull,
good?
06.
go to Texas.
When
and
is
tell
the
me that
last
the
time Texas
expectations
was good?
now? They're good now.
Okay, and they hadn't been good for 20 years.
Have they been irrelevant for 20 years?
They've been pretty bad for the last decade.
They've
Yeah,
been bad.
Mac-
okay,
when
they've
Mac
been
Brown
irrelevant
retired.
for the last
They've been
20
irrelevant.
years.
When Mac Brown retired.
Ohio State's
Mac
been a
Brown
blue
had
blood
them
for 70
playing for
years.
championships.
Jay, do you agree? Do you agree that Ohio, when you put "the" in front of it, and as they say, the world famous Ohio State standards is tippy
right.
top.
But
Tip-
so they're not at Michigan?
No, they're higher. They're higher than Michigan.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
What are they at USC?
they're higher than USC.
What are they at
USC's been
Texas?
crap for 20
At
years.
LSU? At Alabama?
I think they're higher than
At-
LSU. I would put
Are they higher
Ala-
than they are at Alabama?
No, Alabama and Ohio State
That's
are on
it.
a different level.
I think
They're on a
Yeah, but
different level.
I think if you look right now at the teams that are best positioned in college football, if you're going to tell me that Ohio State isn't one of them, and I'm saying top 5, like they're perennially there. So if you're going to make a move, what it really, and that's why I'm surprised you say make it. To me, as a Buckeye fan, I have been somewhat embarrassed by the fan base for a long time because overly entitled. It's hard to be this good for this long.
But that's the standard.
Ask Florida.
That's why you're making $9 million.
didn't have to-
That's
Florida,
the
won-
standard.
Florida was winning titles a decade ago.
With Spurrier. And then when
And-
Spurrier left.
No, I mean even more recently than that.
with Herb,
With
yeah.
Urban, they were a. And by the way, when you pass the baton, that's when you know you've got a program that's not on autopilot because today that is out the window. Autopilot before used to be like players were stuck, they couldn't leave. We're in a different
And
era.
Ryan Day
We're in a
coaches.
different time.
He coaches in a gutless way. We saw it in this game. They lost this game because he was gutless as a coach. He didn't go for it. Michigan did. They were the tougher
You're
team and they won
underestimating
it.
Michigan's talent.
No, I'm
they
not.
Lost
No, they're
this
good.
game.
Michigan's really good.
They lost.
Michigan's
They're
really good.
great.
Yeah.
They're not good.
Yeah.
They're great.
Yeah, they
So
are.
is Ohio
and they
State.
lost this game
Because
you really
they were-
want to know why? Because they played at Michigan. Anybody that knows this rivalry knows how difficult it is to go into one of the other stadiums. That's why for years they would checkerboard the schedule. There were coaches in the 80s and 90s that used to love to have those senior-laden classes in the odd years when they got the home game.
Yeah.
It is a big deal.
Then I guess you should
Yeah,
have got
it
your
wasn't a
pants
big
pulled
deal
down
for
at
the last
home last
20
year.
years.
when
That's
you
that's
extra
that's
hours.
why last year was tough.
That's the one that was
it's-
inexcusable to me.
It's just a cumulative effect for me.
It is.
I've seen enough.
It is, but see, that's the entitled Ohio State fan base saying, wait, we should win it every year.
Not
That's
every year.
obscene.
Not every year.
To think that you
But
should
with the
be
talent
in the
they had
top
last year.
4 every year.
Not every year.
It's obscene.
Not every year.
They were
No, it's
last
not.
year.
I think they should be
No,
in it every
you're
year.
going to have a down cycle every now
No,
and then.
well, you
but
can't. That's not realistic.
You can't lose
It's
three.
Not.
You can't lose 3 in a row to
There are
Michigan.
32 teams in the NFL. Imagine going what the Chiefs have done. That's why it's such a mind blow.
Yeah.
They go to the AFC Championship game every year. That's dynastic.
And that's unbelievable in the NFL. College is different.
It is,
I don't
but-
expect them to be in the top 4 every
Yeah, it's
year.
easier in college.
But you
because
can't lose 3 in a
can't.
row to
Only a
Michigan.
few teams.
I
that
know
can.
you have an understanding of that, of the difficulty of
of course.
being in a
All right,
team
hey
has been in the
folks,
playoffs.
enjoy those
more than
Purdue
Ohio
wins.
State.
Next
Keep
year-
racking up Indiana.
next
And
year's-
Notre Dame and Penn State and
They
being
beat Notre-
relevant.
Who cares about
And
Penn
being
State?
relevant.
Penn State
Next
is a
year-
joke.
Penn State is mid.
They're
Next-
mid.
nothing.
Nothing. You know what they
mid.
are? They're stuck. Imagine if Penn State was Iowa, and they got the West schedule.
Penn State is Iowa.
And they got no,
There's
they're
no
not.
difference.
No, they're not. So the conference right now, I'm telling you,
There's
that
only 2
Michigan game
teams.
is going to be Iowa game is going to be tricky.
Next year when they ain't got that pipeline and all them Urban Meyer recruits is
Oh,
out
yeah,
here,
screwed. They're going
you
down
got it.
to 2.
It's gonna be on.
Wait a minute. Wait. There's still top 3 recruiting classes the last 3 years.
But
Then why
Those are
can't
Ryan
they
Day.
win?
There's
But-
Ryan Day. They're winning.
But
Not when it matters.
Why can't they win? They're 11-1. That is
Who
overly
cares?
entitled.
They win
Why
preseason
can't they
games.
win? Did they lose to Penn State, Notre
Who
Dame?
cares?
Now we got a
Those
conversation.
teams aren't any good. There's 3 good teams, 5 good teams.
Mike's going
They're
to
not
tear his
any good.
rotator
I got
cuff. We got
super